Hello people, welcome to United View and welcome to the Tactical View after our 3-1 humbling by Aston Villa earlier on today at Villa Park. Tough one to take, but they're going to happen. Another blip along the road, another one. I kind of see it as like, you know, when you get like a bunch of marbles and that and you just put them in your little knapsack and just kind of leave them. You got a good side and you got a bad side. Bad games, good games. This is going to get in there with the Brentford, the Brighton, the City, and now this bad loss. But we're going to get into it tactically and find out what happened to us today and why we got that humbling.
Yeah, a bit of a depressed tactical view today, but to start with, as we normally do, a little look at the Villa team. And look, on paper, obviously defensive midfield too, fairly solid in general, but there's not a lot of creativity there. There's nothing too exceptional. So it was going to have to be a special game plan from Unai Emery. It's going to have to be something that United haven't faced too much in recent weeks. And I think with that front four there, they gave us a lot of problems and they gave us things that we hadn't usually faced. So whether it was the rotation, constant fluidity, tucking into central areas to try and get overloads in those areas, or whether it was at times Bailey and Watkins going and playing right on our two centre-backs, they gave us a few problems that we hadn't seen a lot recently. And yeah, it was a difficult game. And as much as we'll break down the tactical side, as much as the tactics were slightly at fault, I think it's just one of those games where everything was a bit off and it all adds up together and you get a bad result like this.
Yeah, exactly. I think, to be fair, we just couldn't get into our rhythm. We made mistakes in the first 20 minutes of the game, like Luke Shaw alluded to, was 2-0 down by then. We made mistakes in the first 20 minutes of the second half, which you just can't do at this level. And I was really concerned about us managing the game emotionally, managing the energy that was going to be in the stadium, managing the fact that it's a new manager from Aston Villa. There were going to be a little bit of a bounce, and that coupled with us just not being at it at all, it just ruined us. It just ruined us. And these are the learning curves, isn't it? Eric Ten Hag says it. In football, a lot of the time, you get exactly what you deserve, and we deserve to lose today, and probably could have even been a bigger margin at times.
Big time, yeah. I mean, if you look at, it was something we've tried to do recently, and it still makes me laugh sometimes. We tried to have Ronaldo leading the press again, and he doesn't quite do it. And in terms of what set the tone for everything, it was us sort of trying to press Villa when they were playing out the back, and the number of times they got out so easily because Martinez could just find the fullback incredibly easily. It was just frustrating because it meant it killed us. It really did the entire game, and a lot of the themes that we saw when we were trying to get this press set translated really well into the rest of the game in terms of how that panned out. So again, what we've seen in recent weeks, if you've watched some of the recent tactical views, you'll have heard this a little bit before. Again, most teams when they're playing out, they split the centre-backs, get sort of a three like that with the keeper, so that even if the opposition play with a front two strikers, they've got the extra man there, so they can normally work it out. So what United have done recently to try and combat that is we've set up with a 3v3. So we've had Ronaldo there, we've had Garnacho and Rashford. They play fairly narrow to start with the idea here that then as soon as that goes there, bang, Garnacho locks on. It would have been nicer if it had, as I'd said, bang, clicks, but
we get what you mean, 100%.
Yeah, it's like United. Everything's just a little bit off, a little bit slow to react, slow to respond. Didn't work today. But yeah, the idea then is as soon as that ball goes out, that's your trigger, bang, you go. And then, look, if you can get there quick enough, great, you can stop them playing through, all that sort of stuff, but it just didn't work today. Behind that, in the midfield, what we typically try and do is on the deeper two midfield players, we push two up on them. So that'll be Van de Beek, and sometimes that was Eriksen, sometimes it was Casemiro on there. Let's say it was Eriksen in this case, so Donny's sitting on Douglas Luiz, Eriksen sitting there, Casemiro sitting here somewhere. But where Villa caused us all sorts of problems was what they did was they started with essentially the front four being really high. So what that meant was, sorry, no, not the front four, that's Jacob Ramsey out here. They started with
wasn't actually playing in the 10 often, was it?
No, exactly. So it was really fluid. They changed around all the time throughout the game. But because they started with the front four so high, it made it really difficult then for the fullbacks here. If you've got a man on you, you can't just go and jump and kill Cash as soon as he gets the ball, or go and get Digne as soon as he gets that ball. So all Villa had to do, because these wingers are doing half and half, as long as you've got a keeper who can ping that ball out there, or ping that ball out there at a reasonable pace so it's zipped in and you trust their touch, that's all it takes to beat the press. So it was quite smart from Unai Emery in the sense that he's not worried too much about this tactic here, because he knows if he goes there, he gets pressed, just go back to Martinez, you can trust your keeper, zing that out there, and Luke Shaw can't really commit too much. Now,
and there was loads of space here with Cash coming in, Digne coming in,
exactly.
and then which would also make Buendia and Ramsey be able to occupy like inside forward.
Exactly. So from Villa, the game plan was brilliant in terms of the first phase of the press. There, you can get out to the fullbacks really easily, but then the movement after that, outside of that, was brilliant. So what would happen is Ramsey and Buendia either side, they would sort of drop into here, this sort of area here, into those half spaces, and if Luke Shaw and Diogo Dalot on the other side, if they go with them, then great. There's a space out here, and you've got Bailey and Watkins just peeling off into the channels, going around the outside, and Watkins in particular up against Lindelof in those one-on-one situations.
Right
on that side, he terrorised him all game. Lindelof wasn't strong enough. He struggled so much. So obviously that happens if the fullback goes with them, and if the fullback doesn't go with them, well then Jacob Ramsey's just receiving the ball in here in the half space, and from that position you can turn, find something, and it becomes a really big issue because Casemiro then, what you're left with in terms of the sort of space he's being asked to defend is this entire gap here, because you've got the front unit going, so you've got these two Villa midfielders being pressed by there. You've got a massive gap in between this sort of front five of United and this back five. So if the Villa players time this sort of their runs well, if they start on top of the United players have got to stay goal side. If they time their movement back in there well, Casemiro can't cover four at once. He can't cover the whole width of the pitch. So it means that straight away, whatever happens, Villa have got an outball. So you could call it a tactical masterclass from Unai Emery. One of the ways that United could have tried to sort of do a little bit more about it and sort of defend it was that you could just sit these two a little bit deeper, get them covering space instead. But then that means these three are left sort of trying to figure out what to do in the press. And ultimately you end up with what we should have seen is just sort of United going into a 4-4-2. Eriksen, Casemiro, Garnacho and Rashford, Ronaldo and Donny van de Beek, sitting in that 4-4-2, be compact, don't let anything come through you. And make them play round
we
you
had to shorten the distances, didn't we?
Exactly,
between midfield,
exactly.
attack and defence all together to condense the pitch.
And we didn't react quick enough to do that.
We just couldn't do it. And it was a theme from early on. You know, obviously they score after like 7 minutes, but even before that, you could just see the way they'd started the game, pressing us, making sure that we couldn't play out, and you could just see them dropping into them little half spaces, especially this guy Buendia. Countless times, he just picked up these little inside forward positions, just literally between the lines, which is exactly where you want to be. Lindelof is occupied, like you said, one-on-one with Watkins. Martinez is occupied with Bayern. It's like, is Dalot going to go in there? You've got Dino on the overlap. Is Rashford doing enough? And then vice versa on this side. It's
exactly that. It was a bit of a mess. It was one of those situations, one of those games where United weren't at the races. We didn't make our decisions quick enough. So sometimes when that ball got pinged out to Martinez, if Rashford was caught here, sometimes if Buendia had changed the starting position, started centrally, Dalot would go and push there, and again leaves Lindelof in a 1v1 duel there for Watkins.
Or he can receive it feet off Digne inside here.
Yeah, exactly. It was a mess. And fair play to Villa. Their tactical sort of fluidity, organisation caused us all sorts of problems, gave them so many overloads in these sorts of areas. And what it meant was when you add the tactical side of them having a good plan to play out that caused us problems, you then add on top of that United not making our decisions quickly enough, not turning quickly enough, not tracking the runners properly like we normally would. Just that 10% off can make all the difference. So once they fed those balls into Watkins or Buendia or whoever it was, what we then saw a lot of the time was that Van de Beek and Eriksen weren't necessarily tracking Dendoncker and Douglas Luiz. Even if you switch off for half a second, the guy runs beyond you. Yeah, you could start sprinting to catch up, but if he's sprinting as well, you're not catching him. He's in front of you the whole way. And if you look at the second goal there, not the second goal, the third goal, it was the run from Jacob Ramsey that just wasn't tracked at all. It was that decision making, that organisation, none of it.
But that for me as well, when I look at us, I've been so happy at the fact that, and I think I was saying it to you, that we don't concede chances very often, but when we do, they're not the type of chances that are like this, where we're really open. The offensive team has loads of space to either pick up the ball, get on a half turn and travel, or it's runs in behind them where it's 6s and 7s. And I just felt like that today because, like you said, like we're saying, the gaps were so big between our midfield, our defence, and but between all the thirds basically, and we didn't react quick enough to that. Aston Villa just literally had a field day being able to pick up that ball, get us either get us turned or turn themselves on the ball and pick up half spaces and just make big problems for us. And it caused confusion because Lindelof's like, shit, do I go all the way in with Watkins? Or Martinez was caught because he's covering Shaw because he's out of position and vice versa. It was just a knock-on effect throughout the whole back line.
Exactly.
the whole time.
And the thing is, if you're trying to be aggressive, you're trying to press from the front, you've got to have everything working together, absolutely everything. So if you end up in a situation here where that ball has been pinged out there, and the winger obviously is doing half and half there, can't get out quickly enough, all of a sudden then, if Buendia is smart with a starting position, your fullback's thinking, hang on, in this situation, he's not got there, maybe I can jump.
Yeah.
Then as soon as he jumps, there's a massive gap down the line, you've got all sorts of problems, so everything builds on top of everything else. And look, I know things weren't perfect tactically, but if Rashford and Garnacho had been able to sprint out there, get out there quickly enough, you can cover it up. So everything builds on top of everything else. And if you've got the intensity, you've got the desire, you're 100% on it organisation-wise, mentally, to cover up the issues that are appearing tactically, sometimes you can get away with these things. But when it's not like that, we had to change quicker. We had to just be a bit more compact, go into a 4-4-2, try not to press them too much. And what's really interesting, I think, is that when Villa played out and got those chances, it tended to come on one side. It was they play out one side, go back to the keeper, fizz it out to the fullback, but then they stay on that side, tear us apart. And if you look at this graphic here, what you can see is that Villa were playing right the way through. Most of their attacking threat came down either side. There weren't too many switches of play that they played. It was just one side, tear us apart, because everyone was going hard. There was lots of half and half going on. People didn't really know what they were doing. You've got obviously Digne holding the width out here, you've got Buendia inside him here, you've got Watkins and Buendia, sort of one comes in, one comes in there, one goes out like that. There's a lot of organisation, a lot of fluidity, and it was really, really difficult to deal with. So to deal with that sort of situation in a game, you've got to be 100% on it in organisation terms, mentally you've got to be on it, and also, more importantly than anything else, you've got to win your duels.
The application was the worst bit for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you can work on things tactically, you can have the ideas and the philosophy of the manager and the progressive way that Ten Hag wants to play, but the things that have been getting us over the lines in games is this.
Yeah.
Is our head and our togetherness and our application and just doing things crisply. There were things like passes just not fizzed in with the right weight, not looking after each other, things like you said, 50-50s, not winning them.
I mean, first half, it was 50-50 possession first half. And in terms of duels, Villa won 20, we won 10. That tells you
that just literally says it.
That sets the tone. We
it.
improved a little bit in the second half, to be fair. It was, I think, 18-16. But that's not good enough in the first half. You've got to come out the traps faster than that, especially when you know the occasion, new manager, they're all trying to impress. The Villa lads are going to be really up for it. You look at these players, the Dendonckers, players
I didn't
like
even
that.
realise he was playing. I didn't even know he played for Villa.
Exactly.
Honestly, I forgot he even went to Villa. Yeah, I thought he was still at Wolves.
Yeah, but players like that, they're not that special.
Yeah.
But they're good. They're decent in the duel. And if you can do that, if you can do the hard part, do the hard part with the duels. The part that that's the sort of technical stuff, the silky stuff that United players are good at. You get the right to do those, but we just didn't do it today.
We didn't get a hold of that midfield at all as well today. I mean, I look at the likes of Christian Eriksen. Today, he just was not at the races. He is somewhat of a conductor. He does set the tempo, and he has been really good. Sociedad, he wasn't very good as well, and this was another hangover from that.
He struggled for a few games.
Where he really struggled for the last couple of games, and then that's what I mean about the bigger picture is a player of the profile of Eriksen, we don't possess. We only have one type of player. Like so Fred can't do what Eriksen does. McTominay doesn't do what he does. Bruno doesn't do what he does. Casemiro can't do what he does. So and Donny, no one in our whole squad can do it. So if he's not at it, we are going to massively struggle. And look, of course, Christian Eriksen at 30, I've been absolutely raving about him and about how important he's been on his team, and he's deserved those plaudits. But the last couple of games, I think we've started to see maybe the other side to his game, or not even just to his game, if he just has a couple of stinkers, how does that affect the team? And you can see it's at a detrimental effect.
Yeah, and look, it's again one of those where, because of the indecision that was going on around him with the wingers being half and half, fullback's not really too sure what to do. Sometimes Eriksen was switching off when he's tracking his man here, that's his own fault. But at other times he was thinking he's got to go out and deal with the fullback if they're sort of cutting in field, or at times if one of these guys is tucking in. He's got so many things going on around him, and he's not a brilliant defensive player, Christian Eriksen. No one's going to say that.
No, that's not his game. Yeah.
It's too much to almost too much to do. It's just one of those games where there's too much going wrong, too much to contend with, and look, it will happen. I think it's, from a tactical point of view, what you can say about it, I think, is that Ten Hag, in the last few games, because things are going well, we've been really aggressive. This pressing game plan here, going 3v3 like this, is really aggressive, because a good keeper, a good back sort of 5 unit, will be able to play those balls out there. And you're banking on the fact that these three get out quickly enough to stop that happening. Ronaldo didn't press the keeper enough. Rashford and Garnacho weren't quick enough to get out to the fullbacks when it happened. And I think it was one of those situations where maybe we've got a little bit too ahead of ourselves. We've gone and tried to be too aggressive when actually what we needed to do, we needed someone to get a hold of it, Just get back in here.
Yeah.
Fullbacks, so wingers help out your fullback as it was as you sort of
Villa
expect.
did it perfectly. Look what Jacob Ramsey was doing.
Exactly. Unai Emery with Villarreal in recent seasons, their compact 4-4-2 was brilliant. They keep the centre of the pitch done like that. And as you say, Jacob Ramsey was doing it brilliantly on Cash's side. Just keep that like that. If you're in this sort of compact shape, Villa players can't really get too much joy in the half spaces. Sometimes that's what you've got to do. As a team, you are never too big enough to be compact.
Well, and that's the thing about us right now, which we've got to remember in this. I keep saying it, and I don't want to use the word philosophy, development, progression, etc. But it is the truth. In this, we're going to get moments and times where you do have to come away from the principles slightly. Well, no, actually no, because one of the principles is, you know what? If we're struggling, if we can't really get, let's just be compact. That actually should be one of the principles.
Yeah, it is.
Even when you look at Man City, when they don't have the ball, you see how quickly they get back into formation, they get back into their unit. Yep. Same with Liverpool, etc., etc. Yeah.
And then, so this is one great example, I think, where the principles of, in terms of how we pressed and the issues we had whilst we were pressing, I think carried over into what was going on in sort of open play more generally. And this was actually the first goal, this sequence that you're about to see here. So Mings plays that out to Luca Digne, and the important thing here is, look, Rashford again, he's gone to press Mings there. We've kept that narrow front three thing going on, and as soon as Digne gets the ball, Dallow's then in two minds. What do I do here? So he goes out to press Digne.
And he kind of does have to go and engage, because Lindelof's there with Watkins. And
exactly, so he goes out to press Digne, but that gap is so big that Digne's got loads of time to just clip that ball. As Dallow goes out, he clips that ball in behind. Watkins goes across there, drags Lindelof into that channel, and he holds him up really well, 1v1 physically. Digne then just good left-back play, really gets round him, drags Dallow out of the equation. And yeah, that duel's still going on. The teams shift across as that's going on, but Watkins is holding up Lindelof really well. You see a bit of movement there. Buendia sort of drags Casemiro. That gap opens up in here between Casemiro and Eriksen. Watkins drops in. And then, Watkins sort of feeds that into Jacob Ramsey, feeds that into Leon Bailey. And again, here, this was an important point because these guys have gone and pressed really high. Casemiro's really tight. Lindelof's tight. Dallow's followed him. But Shaw and Martinez had switched off. They didn't go with their men. And there wasn't an overlapping run coming. And they've got to trust that if there was an overlapping run that gets there quickly enough. Actually, sorry, my bad. There was Cash overlapping. Yeah. But they've got to trust that the guy actually follows that run.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got to trust that. They've got to get tight on these guys. If they were tight, maybe this chance doesn't happen. But they've switched off. They've been sleeping, a little bit lethargic. Ramsey gets the ball as we see Cash now overlapping. But yeah, they've got to trust Garnacho does it. But yeah, Ramsey ends up going inside the other way to Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey slips it past De Gea. So it was just a culmination and a combination of everything that we've said going wrong. So it started right.
Yep.
It's right at the start when that ball goes out to Mings. Rashford's in two minds what to do. Doesn't really do either thing quickly enough.
It's in that half and half where it's like you're doing nothing, innit? Where you need to make a choice there.
I think in football, one of the biggest things is that you can make a wrong decision as long as you commit to it 100%.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, if Rashford commits 100% to that, gets there, stops that pass being perfect, Digne can't take it in his stride, then maybe, even though it's the wrong decision, Dallow can get there.
It just holds it up.
Yeah, it slows Digne's touchdown, Dallow can get out there and shut him down. So it's just those little things where if you're a team that's confident, 100% on top of things, really aggressive and up for it, whatever decision you make, even if it's the wrong one, you do it with conviction and you can get away with things a lot of the time. But yeah, just today, a little bit lacking.
And I think also what came into today is a naivety, man, because it's like I said, it's the understanding of, wow, we're under the cosh here. You know, whether that's from Erik ten Hag to get out on his touchline and say, hey, everyone, you know, there's the trigger, we're struggling, 4-4-2, off the ball. Like you're saying, get compact, get tight. Can we just see this period out? Can we be difficult to break down or get in at halftime and say, this is how we're going to set up? But again, he's trying to impact upon the game because we settled down after 2-0. Yeah. You get a lucky goal, fair enough, but we made that luck. Then he's obviously got into them at half-time tactically, obviously tried to get into them in terms of the mentality, the application, and then they come out, Leon Bailey gets a chance straight away from kickoff, then we go up the other side, huff and puff, and then we get caught in the counter, it's 3-1, game done.
Yeah, at the end of the day, sometimes you've just got to do the simple things well. When things aren't going well, just get back into shape, whether that's your compact 4-4-2, whatever it is, win your duels, make sure your passes go to players on the same team, and make sure defensively people are taking responsibility for things. Basics. Get that right and you can win your football matches.
Yeah, I don't think Cam could have put that any simpler, to be honest. It was something that really hindered us today. Let us know in the views in the comment boxes below if you agree with what Cam's been saying. Did you have your own concerns? A lot of people spoke about Ten Hag's decisions that he made during the game, his substitutions, were they the right ones? when he did make them, were they too late, etc., etc. The starting team, did it work, did it not? Let us know what you guys think after our humbling at Aston Villa today. Smash a like on the video, peeps. Smash a like on the video too, and subscribe to the channel if you're new, I should say, and we'll be here back again with you guys again soon. Peace.